Welcome back into the podcast. I always love having this guy on because it's always such a compelling conversation with him because he's able to go inside on special teams and in a lot of areas that a lot of other analysts don't have the expertise. He was, of course, the longtime long snapper of the Chicago Bears. He is Patrick Mannelly. That's at Patrick Mannelly on Twitter/X, and of course 670 The Score Bears post-game show. And Long Snapper IPA. You can get that wherever you buy your beers around the Chicagoland area. Patrick Mannelly joins me now. Patrick, Bill Zimmerman, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Not as good as I was hoping after that Colts loss, but other than that, the sun still came up.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there are some positives. There's some silver linings here, but let's get into this and let's not bury the lead here. And let's talk about this offense in general, especially the running scheme and how they're running the football. You wish you could just circle one thing. And I think a lot of Bears fans wanted to circle Nate Davis and be like, well, Nate Davis is the problem. But Nate Davis was struggling. Coleman Shelton was struggling. Tevin Jenkins, especially in pass protection, struggling. So there was a whole lot of issues with the offensive line beyond Nate Davis. And the way Shane Waldron was calling plays, some of the scheme here, the decision to run the speed option play that was doomed from the start at the goal line. There's so many things going wrong, Patrick, and I know we want Caleb Williams to throw for 300 yards, and that's great and all, but without a running game, without a balanced offense, I just don't know where this is going to go this season.
Yeah, it doesn't look good right now, and I started, you mentioned the postgame show, thank you for that. I started the postgame show yesterday saying they ran 84 plays and only had 16 points. You would expect a lot more from 84 plays.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's amazing. That's a long film session for the guys on Monday morning. But, yeah, they only scored 16 points. And that to me, just tells you that there's problems everywhere. Like you just mentioned, Shane Waldron's not doing a great job. The O-line's not doing a great job. His rookie quarterback, it's rearing its head. There's some great plays. There's some bad plays. There's some plays. It's just all across the board. And just to me, 84 plays and 16 points, that's not good enough. And against the Colts defense, we've seen the last 2 weeks, give up running, against the rush. They've been terrible. And the Bears ran the ball 28 times and only averaged 2.3 yards per carry. Like, that's kind of embarrassing after what the Packers did to them and what the Texans did to them with Mixon. There's just a whole lot of problems here. And I don't know where it gets fixed. And everybody talks about the O-line. I think that's where it starts. But is Shane Waldron doing everything he can to help those guys up front? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I really, we've talked about it a couple times in the past about putting players in a position to succeed. And look, we can't just isolate the speed option play at the goal line. I know that's where everyone's going.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, but let's talk about it, because talking about putting players in a position to succeed. I mean, I didn't play at the NFL level, but just basic offensive line, those were going to be tough. It was a heavy front on that side for Indianapolis. It were going to be difficult reach blocks for the offensive line. There was no way they were going to avoid penetration on that. And how do you not have an out? It didn't seem like, they're letting Caleb do a lot of the line of scrimmage. It doesn't seem like he was allowed to. That was the play. It seemed, blame DeAndre Swift for a lot. We'll get to him in a second, but I don't blame him there. That play was DOA.
Yeah. It just, anytime you want to run an option at the pro level, it just doesn't work. They're too fast. Like that works at high school level, right? If you're going down the street and playing Manatee High School here, I'm down here in Florida right now, you're playing them. Maybe you can run it against them, but I'm sorry, these DNs, the D tackles, and the speed on that team is, at the NFL level, it's impossible to run. And then I think you can look on Twitter, you see the three guys on the left side on the ground missing their blocks as well. Numbers might have been there to maybe be able to make it work, but you got to, again, know your personnel. That's not the best. The one-on-one blocks by those guys, that's not what you want to do. In my opinion, you need to give all those guys as many double teams as you can, more tight ends, run a power. You get double teams on the left side or right side or whatever, pull a guard. That would help them out. But that play was just, it was done from the beginning just because the play call. I just don't think you can run a speed option at the pro level, and it showed that it didn't work at all. It's kind of embarrassing.
It really was. And Coleman Shelton after the game was kind of like, yeah, what basically kind of did the what'd you expect kind of thing. Like that just, the mentality in that huddle when that play came in, the entire offense was like, what are we doing? Like that because that's what he's saying after the game, that's what they were feeling in the moment. And, you brought up power with multiple tight ends and stuff. And as someone who played offensive line, look, pass blocking is not fun. right? Like I play, you want to get a body on a guy if you're an offensive
Yes.
lineman and move him. Like that's where you're going to get in the flow of the game. And I felt like they were kind of running some straight up stuff early on with Roschon, and then they got away from it again, and they're trying a lot of misdirection and a lot of movement. And I mean, you got Jenkins, Shelton, and Pryor, man, just let them move some people and be okay with inside runs that are going to get you 3 to 6 yards. I get the explosive plays usually come from misdirection and getting running lanes and things, but when you're not moving at all like this, get your line in the flow and just give them some one-on-one blocks and some bodies to move around and get some yards.
Yeah, we talked about this on the postgame show yesterday on 6-7 The Score with Olin, that, Chris Morgan is the run game coordinator. He was not brought, he was retained here, right? So Shane Waldron, that's not his guy. Are they on the same page? We're not just talking about players being on the same page. Are coaches on the same page? So when you're putting together the run scheme during the week, during the offseason, to me, maybe that's part of the problem, that they're not on the same page. Because some of the stuff, the identity, you talk about identity, you're just seeing scattered runs. You're seeing just stuff thrown against the wall and seeing what sticks. And there's no identity of like talking about double teams or a duo concept or a power concept or he's supposed to be this wide zone guy from the Shanahan tree. You're not seeing all that. You're seeing just like a variety of stuff. So I don't feel like they're on the same page either. And I think that's hurting the players.
Yeah, and I agree that the running plan is there's not a lot of cohesiveness there. But I do want to bring up personnel in the backfield a little bit because DeAndre Swift is certainly struggling. His statistics are dreadful. And even without him, the stats aren't good. I'm not pretending that it's wonderful without him. But running backs, forget Caleb scrambles, running backs not named DeAndre Swift are averaging about 3.5 yards a carry right about there. And Swift, I think, is below 2. So like at what point, and I know the idea, I think, was that DeAndre Swift was brought in here to be his backfield, and you could see that in the snap counts early, and that's already adjusting here in week 3. At what point do the coaches maybe look at their personnel and what they've got on the line of scrimmage and go, the running game, at least, forget screens and stuff, the running game is not working with Swift, and maybe Johnson and Herbert need to get more carries?
Yeah, you got to look at everybody, too. You got to look at the O-line. I put – the running game is not just the running back. It's not just the O-line. It's everybody together. And then also, what is his skill set? Is he more of a wide zone guy? You've seen him in Detroit and Philly. I thought he's better on the outside. I don't think they're trying to do that with him, but they're not blocking it up. So I don't know. That's just I don't know what you do right now. You brought him in here to be your bell cow and be your workhorse, and it's not working out. But I can't put it all on DeAndre Swift. I got to put it on the O-line as well, and the run game that is called and put out there and presented that. It's just not good. So I can't put it all on him right now. Roschon Johnson, I think, had a good game yesterday. So what I will say is this. I think what you do is if you get a hot hand and something going well, you don't worry about what you're paying DeAndre Swift. You run Roschon Johnson. He had it going. So to me, that's a coaching issue as well that, hey, I'm sorry, today's not your day, right? Some receivers get the ball some days they don't. But if it's Roschon Johnson's day and whatever you're calling for him is working, you stick with that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I am not trying to put all the blame on Swift. We've talked about everything. I'm just saying I feel like it's working a little better when it's someone else. So, and obviously that the lack of a run game is impacting everything else, including the rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. So, we could spend a half an hour just talking about the run game problems, but let's talk about some of the other pieces on the offense because. Look, Caleb certainly made some rookie mistakes out there, fumble in the pocket. He did hold on to the ball too long a couple times. But overall, I feel that, in game 3, getting the volume of 360 passing yards, you sit there and say, well, he threw it 52 times, but he kept his yards of attempt at 7 yards. That's a solid number. It wasn't down at 5 or 6.1 or something. Still had a good yards per attempt. He was slinging the ball down the field more. The deep ball accuracy improved, still airmailed some, but look, overall, based on how disjointed this offense has looked through all 3 games, seeing, I think, significant progress week after week with Caleb Williams here already is a big silver lining for me. I know a lot of Bears fans are sitting there, the 2 turnovers and this and that, but I think overall, game 3 of a rookie quarterback that did not get to sit, that just went out there week 1. I think the Bears and the Bears fans should be very pleased with where Caleb Williams is already.
I'm with you 100%. And everything you said there, you said the ups and downs, right? That's a rookie quarterback. Everything you said there, the overthrow, I mean, just everything. That's what we're going to get with him. What I like is this, and I feel like what they've done, and sometimes you deal with rookie quarterbacks differently. You kind of simplify the offense and grow it in segments. I feel like they've thrown everything at him. You see him checking at the line, right? I mean, how many rookie quarterbacks are able to do that? Question is, how many is he getting right? I don't know. That's another thing that, over time, you hope he's getting 90% of them right. But right now, maybe he's going 50-50 and some of these checks are wrong. But they're allowing him to do that. So there is growth. For a rookie quarterback to be able to do that is very impressive. Change protections, changing calls for, whether the runs to the right or left. He's reading the defense, and that to me is impressive. So we knew there was going to be some ups and downs, and that's fine, right? But I wanted to see growth, and I think I'm seeing growth. Like you just talked about, you're seeing growth from week to week, and he's still going to miss some plays. Like the overthrows to Roman Dunze when he breaks the pocket, and that's what you're hoping in the future. That's what he's brought here for, right? To make those great plays. And he's not doing that yet, but I do think there is growth, and I think Chicago needs to kind of just slow down a little bit. I wanted him to be great from day one. I liked what I saw in the preseason. But what I'm excited about is I am seeing a little bit of growth each week. And I'm sure when they get back to Hallis Hall every week and they're breaking down the game, they're seeing it as well. And I do think the young man has a bright future.
Yeah, no, I really think there's a lot of positives there. And I'm curious, everyone talked about this offseason, bringing in Keenan Allen, even on the 1-year deal with the $23 million, that it was worth it, even if they don't extend him, because he's going to be the rookie quarterback's best friend. And of course, he's missed the last 2 games. I do think Cole Kmet was utilized pretty well in that role here in this game on Sunday. But how much do you think this offense is missing Keenan Allen here?
I do. I think, he's a security blanket for him. And I just, when I've played with a lot of veterans that come in like that, and he's not a diva. That's the other thing I like about it. You know what I mean? He's not one to come in to certain positions kind of have that diva mentality, right? Corners do and receivers do. And I allow that because that's just what makes them great. They want the ball and all that kind of stuff. I think he's a great veteran for him. He seems like, he wasn't on at the game this week, but last week when he was there on the sideline, he's helping coach, the receivers and the quarterback through the game. So I think when you get a veteran with that experience and that kind of personality and that kind of knowledge, it's very, very helpful. And I think it does hurt him. I do think it. I wish he was there for him just because of, he's that good of a player. And you miss that good of a player, but also that good of a teammate and that good of a guy. I think they miss him. Yeah,
and you brought up Roma Dunze, so I want to ask you a little bit about him because, I think a lot of Bears fans getting a little nervous after 2 weeks, and it's only 2 weeks, and it's a rookie, and I get all that, and there's no reason to get nervous, but I think some of the things that people expected out of Roma Dunze early weren't there. It looked like he may have been making some mistakes with the playbook and whatnot, which I don't think anyone was really expecting, but, really stepped up in week 3, really, got some separation, made a couple great catches, obviously still made a couple mistakes, but overall, I think that the aspect of Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze and that chemistry that everyone was hoping to see, because that, it's great DJ Moore is here, and DJ Moore is here for 6 years. He's here for Caleb's entire rookie contract, but Roma Dunze seems to be the guy that everyone was really hoping that really was going to become that lethal combination that all these great quarterbacks have. They have that, whether it's Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison or Reggie Wayne and all these great quarterbacks with that great receiver and really hoping that Rome was it. And I think you finally got a glimpse of the type of player he can be on Sunday.
Yeah, again, he's a rookie. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Caleb's a rookie. He's a rookie. It's game 3. I thought he had a good game. Could he have caught the ball that was intercepted that Caleb threw to him? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough catch to make and a tough interception the guy made as well. But I mean, he's a rookie. That's the thing is we got to wait. You just got to sit here and wait. And you got to watch him learn. You got to watch him get on the same page. But I do think they have something special, and I like the fact they're close, right? They're friends. They understand they're the number 1 and number 9 pick, and they got something special that they can build. I'm just curious about this, Bill. Is DJ Moore or Keenan Allen when he gets back and is healthy, and if that becomes the go-to guy is Rome, do they get a little like, where's the ball for me? What are we doing here? You just paid me for 6 years. I'm a potential future Hall of Famer in Keenan Allen. I'm always curious when you got 3 guys that are like that level of player or that stature, there's only one ball. And like I said earlier, receivers can be a little diva-ish. Will they get there? And is DJ getting frustrated that he's not getting the ball? Is he getting frustrated that he's not getting the deep ball, that he's not getting, the calls to him? We'll see how that goes along. But I again, to go back to answer your question, he's a rookie. Caleb's a rookie, and we're going to have to deal with it. But I am glad we saw some growth in Rome Odunze.
Yeah, and let's talk about what you brought up there, because I think it's a good point, and I talked about it in the offseason about having too many mouths to feed, and how that potentially could be a good thing for this offense, that they're really, and again, Gerald Everett and DeAndre Swift haven't done much to this point, but those are two guys who you can utilize as receivers, and you talked about the three receivers up top, and of course Cole Kmet as well. It was going to be a challenge, and that's why with Keenan Allen, and of course you want a whole season to play out, you don't want to make judgments before a season, but my thought was kind of, if Odunze really is developing and looking like a guy throughout the season, and DJ Moore you've committed to for the next 6 years, if Keenan Allen wants to stick around at that, 16, 18, $20 million a year, which would be a really nice, affordable deal for a player of his caliber, is that the right way to spend those dollars? Because, this is kind of the last offseason. I think the Bears are going to have a lot of flexibility with their cap, and they're going to start filling up the roster with some big salaries. And then, of course, if they got to extend Caleb in a few years, that'll impact everything. So when I look at this, I sit there and go, you want to get as much talent around Caleb as you can. You want to get as much talent on the field in other areas as well. If Keenan Allen wants to return on an affordable deal, but you've got Rome looking good and you got DJ, is that the right move, or is it the right move to go and get an $18 million a year guard to beef up what's in front? Like, is that a better distribution of your resources?
100%. We're seeing it right now, right? I mean, again, like I said, there's only one ball that goes around. I think, to me, the way the money's allocated on the team, it's to the receivers and the defense, and it's not to the O-line. And we're seeing it needs to be to the O-line. They got to take care of those guys. It's just, we said it during the offseason, right? What's the biggest question mark? O-line. Well, it's rearing its head. And I do think that, Keenan Allen's great for 1 year, but would you rather have like a Keenan Allen at guard? You know what I mean? One of those guys for a rental year for 1 year at guard, or would you rather have Keenan Allen?
Yeah, like Trey Smith. I think the Chiefs are going to have a hard time keeping him. And he just plug him right in a right guard.
But I'm saying, like, this year right now, this team would be a lot better with
I see what you're saying.
Allen at a guard. You know what I mean? Like that
gotcha.
Type of player at a guard, a rental 1 year, veteran guard or tackle. So I think that's the answer there to me, is that I would rather have that player at line than have that receiver. And I think that with Rome's growth and who DJ is, a great player, you have two really good receivers for the future. You got them locked up, right? Then you can find your third receiver. Maybe Tyler Scott grows into something. Who knows? But I would much rather have O-line depth and a better O-lineman up front.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get to the defense briefly here, and then kind of get to the sidelines and special teams to wrap up with you. Defense overall, though, I mean, look, it's three games. They've looked pretty outstanding in all three games. Haven't been perfect. The run defense certainly needs to get beefed up a little bit, but overall, I was a big critic of Tremaine Edmonds last year. I think he's played very well for the first 3 games. The secondary has been very sharp, as we expected. And I had a lot of concerns about the defensive line coming into it, but right now they are playing above my expectations. Andrew Billings is a monster again. Yes. Sweat was, I think a lot of people wanted more impact from Sweat the first 2 games, but he was leading the team in pressures, finally gets home for a sack. So I see a lot of pieces on the defense that just show me that I think this is going to be a formidable unit all season long. And if they can get a little more out of this offense, Anthony Richardson gave him a lot of gifted incomplete passes. Yes. You would have liked maybe a couple, another turnover or 2 if they could, but you still overall have to be pleased with what the defense is doing week in and week out.
No doubt. I mean, they got 2 turnovers, right? They got 1 in the end zone, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. The offense needs to pick up their, the end of the bar. They give up three turnovers, but the defense, I think they're very good. I think late in the game, when you get in a game like that, and you have a running back like Jonathan Taylor and an interior O-line like the Colts have, they did the right thing. They leaned on them. Quentin Nelson at the end to seal the game get the first down with 2 minutes to go. That those guys you're leaning on, and that shows, again, going back to the O-line, how important they can be. And that's how they ended up winning the game. But overall, the defense has played spectacular. I mean, they've held the teams to enough points where the Bears should be winning. And I think you have to give, maybe we'll get into Eberflus and the calls and the 2-point conversion and all that kind of stuff later.
Coming up right now.
We'll do it now. But other than that, I think he's a heck of a defensive coordinator and what he's doing with that unit.
Yeah, and yeah, let's dive into Matt Eberflus, because like you said, heck of a defensive coordinator. He's calling plays, he's getting pressure, he's doing everything he needs to do defensively. And I don't want to take, when I say some of this other stuff about him, I don't want to take anything away from Matt Eberflus, the defensive coach. I think he's outstanding. I think, he's a defensive back guy, what he's done to develop the Jalen and Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, he is a part of why that defensive secondary is as strong as it is. But when I look at the sideline CEO, I had concerns last season with some of the decisions he made and some of the blown fourth quarter leads. And Patrick, he's not making me feel any better through 3 games here. There's some questionable challenges. I didn't like either. I didn't even like the Kyler Gordon challenge 2 weeks ago. I understand a lot of people thought, well, it's worth it. But the other challenge was bad. He ends up, he burnt a timeout on defense last week. He burnt a timeout on defense again. There's enough here where you sit there and say these things build up in the game and they hurt you at the end of the game. And the Bears were lacking timeouts at the end of this game here. The 2-point conversion confusion versus extra point after that touchdown was inexcusable. I mean, as a high school football, I didn't think my high school football coach was anything spectacular, but there was never confusion about what was happening after the touchdowns were scored. When it was goal to go situations, the coach made sure everybody knew exactly what was about to happen. And how an NFL sideline has that level of confusion, we talked about they had a chance to line everything up this offseason, and Ryan Poles committed to Matt Eberflus. And I know it's only 3 games and it's way too early to panic about anything, but I have concerns that this team may have a Matt Eberflus problem.
Yeah, you mentioned the challenge plays; those were bad. But the play on Sunday where they didn't know they were going for 2, that's egregious. Like that's ridiculous. I've been on those sidelines before where the special teams coach they sent Cairo out there, right? They sent the field goal team out there. So not only is the blame on Eberflus, which it should be on him, he's the head coach, but the special teams coach should know that as well. They have the little clicker, right? Where they talk on the headphones, and they'd be like, are we going for 2? Are we going for 2? What are we doing? That should have been communicated while they're driving down the field. That should have been known before. And people talk about Rome and Caleb celebrating with the football and said maybe it was their fault for not. No, they were sending the kicking unit on the team. The coaches should be yelling like 2, 2, 2, put their fingers up. And that's inexcusable. Like you said, a high school coach would know to do that. So, and players should know that. Like as the kicker and the punter and long snapper, we'd all stand together before the field goal, and we'd be like, wait, we should be going for 2. What are we doing, coach? What are we doing? What are we doing? It's on everybody, but it falls on Eberflus. He should know that while they're driving down there, know the game situation. It's inexcusable. It'll be interesting to hear what he says or what his excuse is for it this week. But you can't have that happen. Those timeouts are so valuable, and all these games are one series games at the end of the game, right? And it came down to that as well until they ran out the 2 minute. Well, until he got sacked and fumbled the ball, but they had a chance. That timeout is super valuable, and I just can't believe he let that happen. And that's the other thing. Okay, we're happy that he's good as a defensive coordinator. I love that. And my question was, all right, how much has he grown as a head coach, CEO guy?
Right.
And right now, he has not done that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really concerning. And that's kind of where I was this whole off season is, at the end of that Packers game last year, I mean, pretty much anybody, and I mean, media and fans thought Matt Eberflus should be let go. And Ryan Poles did not make that decision. He committed to him. And I think the glow up and the positivity of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, the draft and everything, really put all those concerns aside by everyone. And everything was so positive, and Eberflus looked great, and everybody was into it. And that was the one thing I was like, it looks like he's a really good coach Monday to Saturday. He keeps the players accountable, but they have fun and they like playing for him. Mm-hmm. And, the defensive side of the ball, he's great. And there's a lot of positives there, but you still need to be that CEO on Sunday that has control of the game at all times. And it's a big concern for me, Patrick. And I just, and like even, you break it down specifically, like looking at a couple of the special teams decisions that were made that need to be made by the head coach, not the special teams coordinator. The Santos missed field goal in the first half that was out of his range, and the decision to not go for to go for the onside kick, at the end of the game. I'm curious about your thoughts on those two decisions by the head coach.
All right, so Cairo with the 56-yarder, that's kind of up to him. So the coach will go to him, can you make it? Is that in your range? And he would know because in the pregame, he probably made it or missed it. Like, you go back as far as you can kick it. So, like, if you're at Soldier Field, it's a windy day, you're trying to find out your end line, right? Well, he's in the dome, so I'm guessing he probably made a 56-yarder in pregame. And maybe he just mishit it. I don't know. And he doesn't have the strongest leg, but he's extremely accurate. So, to me, that's a communication issue with the kicker, special teams coach, head coach. So there's a line where they know going into the game, like, all right, if we get to the 32-yard line and we're back behind that, we can't kick it. If we're the 32-yard line in, we can kick it. So that's up to those guys. The onside kick, that with the new kickoff rules and then announcing you're doing it and all that kind of stuff and the way you align now, that it's extremely hard to get an onside kick. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's very, very, very low. So I think they have those statistic guys in the building that realize that, hey, let's go ahead and kick it deep. We can stop when we have enough timeouts with a 2-minute warning that we can get the ball back. And that's another issue that's the Colts made. It was not running the ball out and using the 2-minute warning.
Right.
So it's another coaching error. But that's something that's been talked about, during the offseason. How do you deal with that situation? I had no problem with it. I really didn't. I had no problem with it because the percentage to recover an onside kick is really, really small. To me, that's a desperation thing. If you can get the ball back, then you go ahead and kick it.
All right. Well, since we're talking kickoffs, let me just kind of ask you a general question on the dynamic kickoffs here and kind of get your opinion on it, because I think, going into it, I was definitely the kickoff had become basically an intentional walk, right? Like it was a non-existent play. It was just blast the ball into the end zone, start at the 25. So I was all for them trying to bring the excitement back into the play. I was cautiously optimistic, but didn't really know what to expect. So I'm curious with you, what your thoughts were about these new rules prior to the season and where you are after 3 weeks.
Yeah, again, it's only 3 games. I'm still trying to break it down. I do like the fact there are more returns, that the guys get the ball in their hand and they do bring it out a little bit more. I still think, and I've talked to a couple special teams coaches during the offseason, that they like the rule. They like what it is because there is more opportunity to bring the ball out. They still think there's going to be changes. They think there's going to be tweaking a little bit of everything about it. And I asked, do you think it could happen during the season? They said it could, because it's been discussed, because they wanted to see how it goes. But I think more will happen in the future to maybe try to get more returns and maybe I don't know what they'll do, but
touch back to the 35.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me too, just to see it. You know what I mean? It's what my wife said. She called it she described it. I forgot how she described it. She just said it looks so different. I forgot what the word she used, and it is. It just looks weird that they're standing there, the kicker's behind them. But I think they'll figure it out over time. But I do like, just to answer the question, I do like the fact that they bring it out a little bit more just to add that element to the game.
All right, a couple more for you on special teams. Let me ask you about Torrey Taylor. Last time you were on here last year, we talked about Trenton Gill. And basically, we talked about his inability to get the teams deep inside the 20, and never really inside the 10. If it was inside the 20, it was always the 15, 16. And they needed a guy that could really pin him deep. Enter Torrey Taylor. They spend a 4th-round pick on him. We've seen some flashes so far, but I don't think we've seen the overall consistency that we were expecting. So let me ask you, as someone who was around special teams units for many years, is there an NFL adjustment for punters? Because as an ignorant person, and I'm just going to say it, in terms of punting, I don't know much about it. It doesn't feel like there would be that much of an adjustment from college to the pro. So I'm just curious why you think that perhaps Torrey Taylor isn't punting at about the level, some good punts for sure, but not really at that consistent level that Bears fans were hoping for.
Yeah, there's a rule difference that, we'll go to this. He's got to speed up his operation compared to college. So as soon as you commit, it's got to be a little quicker. So everything in his mind is a little bit faster. So he'll get used to that more the more reps he does. He's had a decent year so far. He started out okay. But, yes, there is a difference between that. And I think he's got to learn. He'll learn. Again, we'll go back to the rookies. We talked about Caleb and Rome. He's a rookie as well. It's only game 3. So he will learn, but he's got the talent. So just the more reps he gets and the quicker his get off gets and all that kind of stuff, and he gets used to kind of going faster, he'll be better. But he is a talented, I guess he's not young, what is he, 26? He's a talented kid, and he'll get better, and there is a difference. It's just the timing aspect. Gotcha.
All right. Well, and last thing I got to ask you, and I have to ask you, is long snapping, because there's a long snapping conversation to have. And with Patrick Scales out, they bring in Scott Daly. From what I can tell, it looks like he's done a very good job in for Scales. I saw one high snap on I don't remember if it was a field goal or an extra point, but Taylor seemed to get the ball down well, and they didn't seem to have an issue with it. But like overall, how much of an impact, because I would think that could have a significant impact on those units. It feels like Daly's done really well. So what can you into that process? Like, do teams have a couple long snappers? Does the special teams coordinator have a couple long snappers kind of on a piece of paper somewhere, just in case kind of situation? Like that seems to have gone pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, you would go into Dave Tobe's office when I was with him, and it wasn't a slight on us. It was or punters, kickers, long snappers, but he had a list of free agents that were out there that if we got injured, that's who they're bringing in. And knowing Dave, he might have put that out there just to kind of get us a little so we think about it. But most of them keep it on a paper in their drawer and you don't see it. But yeah, Scott has been I've known Scott for years. I worked with him in high school. I worked with him through we played at Notre Dame. He's from Downers Grove. And I think they made the right move when Pat Scales got hurt. You bring in a veteran, because the biggest issue when you bring in a new long snapper is not the punter, it's the holder and kicker. You've got to get the laces right, the speed right, the timing right, all that kind of stuff. And Scott's been with Detroit 3 or 4 years before and lost the battle to a young guy. So him walking in was a lot easier for a veteran to come in and do that than it would be a young guy. And he's done a great job. He had a holding penalty, I think, in week 1. I think he's got 2 tackles as well, which is a bonus for a long snapper. So proud of what he's done. He's come in and been seamless, and obviously Cairo's made all his kicks except the 56-yarder, so that has a lot to do with him coming in as well and making that operation pretty smooth.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it. So last thing, Patrick, obviously they're sitting at 1-2. Have you, based on some of the struggles we've seen, have you adjusted your overall outlook for the season, or are you still sitting there? It's 3 games. Let's see what happens here in the next few weeks.
It's 3 games, and let's see what happens, because who the Bears play in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the Rams had that big comeback against the 49ers, which kind of shocked me. But then you got winnable games coming in the future, and then the growth of Caleb. That's the biggest thing. I think what I talked about earlier of him checking plays at the line of scrimmage and doing all that kind of stuff. He's going to get better. He's going to have more command of the game. He's going to feel more comfortable. And I think we'll see a lot in his growth. And I think that will equal more equal more points, which will equal more wins with his defense. So I'm not in panic mode yet. Give me 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks through their schedule who they're playing. If they're not winning those, then I'm going to be a little upset and a little disappointed.
All right, well, there he is, at Patrick Mannelly on Twitter. You can catch him on 670 The Score, post games after Bears wins and losses. Hopefully there'll be a lot more wins moving forward here the rest of the season. And, of course, that long snapper IPA, make sure you can track that down in the Chicagoland area. Patrick, thank you. It was a great conversation. I learned a lot. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again.
All right, always good catching up with you, man.